All right, I'm John Rush, Drive Radio, and I'm not on camera much, which is probably a good thing since I have a face for radio, but Rich talked me into actually being in this video. So we are going to sit and chat just a moment, probably do a couple different videos here, so you want to keep watching. But we're going to talk about the warranty aspect of things, how K&N handles that, and then also want to get into a little bit of just what happens when you put an aftermarket part on your car, and does that really void your warranty like some folks out in the automotive world think. So let's get into that.
Well, the first part of it is K&N's warranty. I would have to say, and Shannon and I go through this on a regular basis, that's the one thing that really sets us apart from other companies, not just air filter companies, but other companies in general, is our consumer protection pledge. We'll first start up, we got the 1,000,000-mile warranty. We're the first ones to come up with that. We have the consumer protection pledge, we have the limited engine protection warranty. Yeah, so we cover the consumer when they buy our product. We have them covered so many ways. It's amazing. A lot of people don't realize, and I wish more dealerships realize that, and we go through that frequently with the dealerships.
Right.
Why would you have anything against us? Because we have a dealership warranty. Whereas if a dealership has put if a consumer pulls in, they got a cold air intake on the vehicle. Let's use that as an example. They pull into a dealership and they open the hood, and the consumer, he's sitting there, he's got a new car, and the dealership looks at it and is suspect that the intake kit has potentially hurt the vehicle, for God only knows why, may have hurt the vehicle, or is going to cost him extra time because they're not familiar with it. Well, we're going to have to put this thing back to original to check the programming, which is a logical thing. The vehicles now have such tight programming on it that if it has an intake kit on it, and if there is a programming that needs to take place from the factory, we don't have a problem with the dealership saying, let's put it back to OE and check the programming on it. We got 4 or 5 updates to do, which is not unusual, emissions wise. There's no reason for them to be upset, because if they call the 858-3333 and talk to us about it, whatever time it's going to take them to put that back to OE, we'll cover them for it.
Okay.
So the consumer pulling in, the dealer's protected, the consumer's protected, everybody's protected by K&N, just because the guy was smart enough to buy a K&N product. That's what they get for buying a K&N. And the same thing with the air filter. It's if they suspect that the air filter caused the problem. Well, we got everybody protected. If it hurt the motor, we got a protection program for that. And if they say, if the consumer is told that, this caused that problem, we'll pay the consumer for their effort, for whatever the dealership dinged them for, or the repair center dinged them for. We will compensate them for it, and then we will go back and pursue the dealership. We think you did this, we think this is wrong. Look, there's a TSB out on this. Why did you blame it on our filter? And we will take that so that the consumer's not.
So you're doing some of the research then that the customer doesn't have to go in and do for himself.
Exactly.
That's essentially what you're saying.
If they call that, and every one of our products has that little black card in it. Every one of them does. If you have an issue, call this 858-3333 800 number. If they call that number, if they're lucky, they'll get a hold of her, because Shannon knows what she's doing. I don't. But they'll get a hold of her, and we'll run this thing through the system. We'll stand side by side with the consumer, and if they have to lay out any money towards our product, we'll step in there and we're with them.
And by the way, you're one of the few companies out there, if not the only, that actually will back that up. Being from the aftermarket side, as I've been for 27 plus years, there's not too many aftermarket companies that back up their. A lot of companies will put a warranty on paper,
right?
But getting them to back it up is another thing. So
exactly.
Let's say I'm Joe Consumer. I've got my diesel truck. It's got a cold air intake. I go in and I have what happens. Dealership says, hey, there's a problem here. Might be attributed to the cold air intake, et cetera, et cetera. I then pick up the phone, call the 1-800 number. I get you guys involved, and then what happens?
Right, well, we can talk to the mechanic. We try and figure out what the problem is. You know, if they have codes coming up, we'll have them, you know, tell us what the codes are. Figure out if it truly is the intake or
something else.
Or something else, yeah. And if the mechanic's willing to discuss it with us, we'll work with them together. If there needs to be new parts sent out, if they're missing something or a damaged part or something, we'll send that out.
Okay. So really at that point, I as a customer, I've just turned everything over to you. You're going to call the dealership, work through some things, talk to them. And again, at the end of the day, if there's a charge, I don't have to absorb that as a customer. You're going to pick that up on your end. If it truly is something that had to do with the K&N.
Well, right. Even not necessarily. Now you might have gone a little bit too far with that, because let's say that the dealership is convinced that even though we show that the description of events or the damage that the mechanic says caused the problem. You know, he says, okay, well, you've got this and this and this wrong with your vehicle, and it was caused because of the intake, the filter, whatever.
Right.
And we disagree with it. You know, we said, no, that's not it. And he still charges the consumer for it.
Okay.
We will pay the bill to get the consumer out of the middle. Okay. And we take it up with them. We take it up with the mechanic, the dealer, the manufacturer, whoever is laying that claim out and trying because if you read the Consumer Protection Pledge, like we talked earlier, it's the great thing. Steve Rogers pinned it, and it's in very, very
layman's terms.
Layman's terms, exactly. That's the term I was looking for. Very, very layman's terms. And the idea and the whole intent of it is the consumer to get out of the middle. If the consumer paid $50, $20, $100, $12 for the K&M product, he did not buy to get stuck in the middle of something. And that's the whole intent of that. And it's a little, because it's in layman's terms, you know, attorneys, you know, they go, well, you know, that's not legal language, you know. Well, that's the way Steve wants it, because he wanted the consumer to know that we stand behind our product. You know, and I think that it kind of reminds me, what I like to say is it's a little bit of a, we have even though K&N's a very large company, we still like to operate in many ways like the little local general store in town. You know, that when you buy a product from K&N, it's not just a great big company that doesn't care about you. We just don't, okay, we got your $50 for the filter, we're done with you. Yeah, you try to get your money back on that filter. If somebody buys our filter and they call us up and say, you know, and we do it every once in a while, we do it, they call up and they said, you know what, I'm just not happy with this thing. I thought it was going to do this. Oh, really? You're not happy with it? Okay. We'll give you your money back. We don't want you unhappy with our product.
Right.
You know, they put a cold air intake on it, and the guy loves it and drives the vehicle, and he loves it. The wife says, it makes too much noise. I can't stand driving this thing. And he calls us and tells us that. Well, shoot, we don't want your wife unhappy. Then, you know, we'll give you your money back. You know, it's that type of a relationship that we want with our consumer, and I think that's why we've been around so long. And we have second, third generation, you know, buyers of the K&N product.
And in our family, there's 3. So
very, very well. That's what brought you and I together to begin with. I mean, you certainly knew about the K&N product, you know, but you were you had an idea, and that's why we've been around for you know, had such a great relationship
and a great partnership. All right, so with that, we're going to go to another scene here in just a second. Real quick though, I'm John Rush, Drive Radio, and we're going to be back. Stay tuned.